Now, game followers just come out saying it's plausible we could be seeing a brand new case or a brand new operation on the horizon, but there's a lot of examples of this happening in the past. Specifically, we haven't seen any Zeus skins yet. We just saw the resurgence of the Kukri knife. We haven't seen the Twin Blade. We haven't seen any of these 3 brand new supposed collections that came out with the CS2 beta files. But coming back to what Game Follower has here, we can see 3 different things. First up, we got all of the different chroma finishes for the Kukri knives here. These are the ones that we would traditionally be expecting to see on the Shattered Web knives if we were going to see an operation, which is why some people are pointing that. Second of all, we have the 2024 service medal. If you want to look back, the 2023 service medal was released on December 13th, and it didn't really bring too much along with it, at least at that point. And finally, we've got this right here, which is labeled Crate Community 33, but inside of it is all the Revolution skins. We don't know exactly what this means, if it's a brand new case, if it's a re-release of the old one, we just don't know.
SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description.
Now, if you think a removal of a case is probably going to lead to a significant amount of easy profit, you're probably right. If we want to look at the past examples of when this happened, we can see that a lot of them had a very strong trajectory of increasing right after they got removed. However, I want to focus in on the clutch case. That's the most recent example of an actual case getting removed, and we can see it did not turn out that well for the clutch case. That's because the supply on the clutch case was absolutely massive, leading it to have a very strong time in the short term, but over the long term, it dropped down a significant amount and it really didn't see too much traction. And that's very plausible to see with the Snakebite and the Fracture case if those are one of the 2 that get removed. The Fracture case is currently the most supplied case in the entirety of the game right now, with over 35 million cases out there, and the Snakebite also has alternatives. If you want to go unbox those Snakebite gloves, they're from the Broken Fang case, but they're also found in the Recoil case, meaning there's a ton of options for these gloves, and therefore opening it up is not super desirable. Now, the rest of the case market is probably not going to suffer too much because of a brand new case, other than the active duty cases that don't get removed. That's because they're probably going to be decreasing in price just because the demand for them specifically is going to decrease at least a little bit, but even worse for the Fracture case. If the Fracture case does not get removed, it's probably going to decrease a little bit more than the rest because it's currently pumped up by people who think it's going to be the next to go. Therefore, I could definitely see it, at least in the short term, falling down a little bit more than it already has. Now, a brand new case would be perfect for investing right now because of a couple different things. First of all, if we want to talk about the market over the past couple of weeks, we've seen a significant amount of growth happen in this area, but most of this growth is actually more recovery rather than brand new growth. Same with the player counts. Although it is stabilized at the current level, we're not seeing any actual growth in this area, rather a sustainable level, which is good, but we want to see more. The biggest thing though is if we see a brand new case come around the time of Christmas, people are going to be much more likely to spend their money on CS, not only opening up this brand new case, but also on the various items that exist inside of the game as well. If they see brand new content is coming out right now, they're going to be more inclined to spend money on this game, and since we haven't seen any brand new content in a significant amount of time, there's not really that opportunity that exists. When an operation rolls around, we see a lot of good and a lot of bad coming along. The good is definitely quite obvious. If we want to talk about operation cases over the 1 year period, this is the only case inside of the entirety of CS that has consistently been on an increasing trajectory, meaning obviously they had a little bit of a pullback, but nothing compared to the rest of them. Stickers, patches, collection skins, all 3 of these usually end up being pretty decent investment just because the supply is completely cut off, and even some of the agents end up doing quite well just because the supply is once again cut off in this area. However, not everything is absolutely perfect in this area, and one area that's definitely going to suffer if we see a brand new operation, it's going to be those Paris capsules. That's because right now Paris is in a very interesting situation. The volatility on it is absolutely cranked up to the max, and we also see it being a very liquid investment, meaning so many people out there have it, and so many people are willing to sell for a loss. We've seen this every time with sticker capsules that usually they end up going for a little bit below the market price if they have a huge supply, just because the interest might be there, but there's so many people with these investments, and some of them are just willing to sell for a loss. I think Paris is definitely going to struggle from this if we see a brand new operation roll around. Even if Paris long term is on a very strong trajectory, which I think it is, it's definitely going to have some struggles in the short term, especially if we see a brand new operation relatively soon. In fact, the general market is probably going to be dropping down a pretty significant amount when we see an operation. We talk about an active duty case, those are down potentially 40 to 50% in the past, and all we had was the clutch case, which was at 30%. Now we've got active duty cases sitting around maybe $1. We don't know how much those are going to drop. And then we've also got the rare cases. The rare cases in the past have dropped down 20 to 30% as well. It's usually not a great time for many investments that have a decent supply out there, because even if your investment is very stable in the long term, there are people that are going to end up selling it most likely, and therefore the price is going to fall down because not anyone is specifically looking to buy investments at that current moment. That's why it's so profitable if you are one of those few people that are looking to buy during that current moment, because you can get a very significant discount, and usually these items recover relatively quickly. Now, with all that being said, I actually think an operation would be very beneficial for the current state. Obviously, we talked earlier about the player player counts and the brand new content or the lack thereof. But even more importantly, if we want to look at what happens after an operation, there's usually a prolonged period of growth. It's actually quite significant over the past couple operations. After it ends, we see a decent amount of growth continue. That's just because people are now interested in the game. They've invested themselves into the game, and they've invested their money possibly into the game. Therefore, they're going to continue playing, they're going to continue opening up cases, and usually some of the best months for growth we end up seeing are just a couple after an operation goes ahead and ends. But the most important thing about this is it brings so many different opportunities for investing. The reason why investing into operation items is so profitable is because there's a plethora of items. There's so many different items that you can invest into that you're able to find ones that are underdeveloped during the operation time span and pick out those ones specifically and see the massive growth afterwards. We really haven't had that opportunity since Riptide because there hasn't been a huge influx of content in any form. This is actually extremely detrimental to all investments because that means we're starting to see a possible overinvestment into a couple specific ones. That happens a lot with Paris and sticker capsules from majors just because there's no other options. People are going to put their money into that. It also happens a little bit with cases, not so much at least at this point with the cheaper rare cases and the rare cases overall, but it's definitely a possibility in this area. When an operation comes, there's so many different items, there's so many different investments you can make that you're almost bound to end up with a couple winners that you didn't even think they were going to be investments. Now, if you're looking to guarantee yourself some profit from the next operation, the best thing you can do is go ahead and grinding out the pass. Grinding out the pass is going to guarantee you a profit if you buy it at $15 and you end up selling those cases immediately afterwards. This is something I did in the past, and you can also take that money and move it into an investment specifically, maybe buy some cases a little bit later down the line. That's not guaranteed, but looking at the trends of the past couple operation cases, I think it's very likely that we're going to end up seeing this next operation case once again end up being pretty expensive. Now, since we're talking about an operation, we do have to bring up filler skins. Now, filler skins have just been such an interesting situation ever since September. That's because they went ahead and they changed the drop system, so you had to choose your options, but that pretty much gave everyone the option to choose a filler skin, which increased the amount of filler skins out there so significantly, which subsequently decreased the price of them. Now, I don't know if the demand for an operation would be able to overcome this pretty drastic increase in supply, but it's definitely a possibility if they get cheap enough. I just don't know if they're at that price point of cheap enough. It's something that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on, and if an operation does roll around, I'll probably buy some instantly if they're still at that lower price point, but I don't know if I'm going to be picking up some preemptively just because I don't know where exactly this market sits. Now, how to profit off of this area is actually quite simple. If we're talking about a brand new case and a brand new case releases and we haven't seen any increase in price because you're one of the first people there, just go ahead and buy some cases. The hype will definitely carry it up enough that you can overcome the 13% Steam fee. We don't know exactly how high they're going to go, but there's always hype when a case gets removed. Usually it's about a double in price. We don't know for sure. And when an operation rolls around, it's a perfect time to buy because there's so many different items out there, but people aren't really thinking about investments the first couple of weeks. They just want to get straight into the action, meaning a lot of these items that end up being perfect investments or really good investments are usually pretty cheap in the first couple of weeks. It's usually one of the cheapest times to buy some of these items because people aren't thinking about it, making it a perfect time for you if you have some of that money sitting around to go ahead and start picking some of these up. Everything's on sale, and that's all I got. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Goodbye for today.